Women Taking the Lead, episode 185.
I'm a big fan of the Eleanor Roosevelt quote that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So just recognizing that, a lot of times when you feel inferior, it's because you've given your power away, not because someone has made you feel in a certain way.
Hello, my name is Jody Flynn and welcome to Women Taking the Lead, where we are all about creating blasts of inspiration to help you overcome self-doubt so you can lead with confidence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Head over to womentakingthelead.com to join the community and get the resources to support you on your leadership journey. Now, your future awaits, so let's get started. Every child wants to be the hero of their own story. At JulesCustomBooks.com, your child plays the central role in every book, bringing joy and delight when they hear their name and those of their family and friends. Visit JulesCustomBooks.com to make your child the star of the show. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Andrea Goulet, who is the CEO of Corky Bytes, a software development shop dedicated to maintaining and modernizing software applications. Named by LinkedIn as one of the top 10 professionals in software under 35, Andrea is the founder of the LegacyCode.Rocks website and hosts a podcast dedicated to changing the way we think about legacy code. She keynotes frequently about building a business based on balance, empathy, and trust, the perils of technical, non-technical divide, and the technical philosophies around working with legacy code. In her spare time, Andrea enjoys helping other people learn how to code and writing about the intersection of empathy and software. She loves watching her kids explore the world and is a sucker for a good physics documentary, and really, who isn't? Come on, Andrea. And you can recognize her by the JavaScript tattoo on her wrist. So interesting, Andrea. Please tell us more about you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like hearing that bio, it's like, it's kind of been overwhelming. Yeah. So I think, it's really neat to hear all of that. And like, I hear that and almost feel like that's a different person, because when I think of myself, I think I went to a public school. I went to a state college. I have a degree in business, and I started a company with this guy that I met from high school who was really good at software and asked me to join him as his CEO. And, it's just kind of taken off from there. But I mean, I live in a small town. I love it. And so there's so much of me that when I hear my bio, like, cause you don't hear your bio very much. I mean, it's very interesting because I think I'm kind of just this small town girl and I still am. So yeah.
I love it. The small town girl rocking the world, really.
Yeah, that's the neat thing. Like, I mean, I live just outside of Richmond, Virginia, and I was in New York last week. They had invited me to go to this CTO summit, and I got to help ring in the opening bell on NASDAQ, and like my picture was in Times Square. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And then like I had a flight up there and back on the same day, and I just came home and like tucked my kids in and was super happy and was like really glad to be in my tiny little small town where I went to school. And my one of my best friends from high school is my son's preschool teacher. Like those are the things that really matter to me.
Yeah. So we're coming into an age where it's no longer required, right, to move to the big city to make a name for yourself, like because of technology and because online businesses are booming right now, that you can live wherever you want and you can have like this mega company if you want to, or be making big waves in the world. I just love the era we're coming into right now.
Yeah. And that was a big reason why we started our own business, because both Scott and myself were getting all these job offers to go out to the West Coast. And we're like, so Scott, my business partner, so we met in high school. We were really good friends in high school. He asked me to be his business partner. And then 3 years later, we got married and then had kids. So we're also married now, and have a family. And the thing was we were like, we're not moving. We've got all 4 grandparents here. like this is really important to us. And I think people sometimes forget the disruption of uprooting people. And so we built our entire culture around being a remote first company that focuses on the really complex legacy code applications that are just difficult to work with. And we've been able to be successful. And, the idea is that I'll bring Silicon Valley to me. I'll bring New York to me. And, I'll travel when it's needed. But for the most part, I am a homebody. I love my small town and I wouldn't move. I'm very rooted here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I feel like at this point, it's a good time to really, for those who don't know, legacy code, can you give us a quick explanation of what that is?
Sure. So the way that I describe legacy code is that it's code without good communication around it. So a lot of times when you build a software application, you then the people move on to other projects or, they leave the company. And if you inherit a code base that doesn't have a lot of context around how to work with it, and there are lots of different, very technical ways that I could describe what that is. But the idea is just if you can't glean really quickly the context and why people made certain decisions and the code is kind of really difficult to work with, then it's really frustrating. So, and it can impede how fast you're able to develop new features. So, think of it this way. We've all had an instruction manual or something, right? If the documentation of a software to get everything up and running on what's called your developer environment so that you can actually work on the code is frustrating and takes 3 days, then every time you touch the code base, it's super frustrating. Mm-hmm. Versus you've got something set up in 3 minutes and then you're off to the races and you're just coding. So that's what we do is we actually take these projects that don't have a lot of communication. They're really fragile code bases. They're really difficult to work with, but they're doing really important things. And we help to make them way easier to work with. We, help make it so that our clients can get better value out of them. They get more return on investment. And that's really the thing for me. So you don't have to worry too much about the technology side of things. If you're not in technology or anything, don't worry about it because I didn't come from a technology background. My background is in marketing. And I actually started my very first job out of college was as the hostess at a local restaurant. So yeah, this is stuff that you can learn, but it just takes an attitude of, okay, that's what it is. I'll learn about it.
Yeah, so. Anything can be learned if you have the right attitude about it. It's so true. And Andrea, my goodness, talking to you, you have so much energy, you have so much confidence, right? You're on top of the world, things are going really great, your life's set up the way you want it to. There's always things we're improving on, but you're in a really good place right now. But I always like to, at this point, level the playing field because we all have those human moments that we can relate to, and I call them playing small moments, and that comes from the Marianne Williamson quote, where she talks about how playing small is just not the way we're meant to live life, but there's also a part of our makeup that is designed to keep us safe and hold us back. And so we undervalue ourselves. We don't realize what we're capable of. And so there are times in our lives where we hesitate and we hold ourselves back because we don't know any better. So if you could share with us one of those times in your life when you were playing small and the lessons you've learned from it.
Yeah, I think the thing is that I still do play small in some ways, right? So the one that I kind of came prepared was in 3rd grade, I had a bully tell me that I wasn't good at math and my grades went from straight A's to C's and I never really recovered. And then I opted out of, I was always really good at math. I took differential calculus in college and statistics and I always got A's and I enjoyed it, but I let other people tell me what culturally I was and wasn't allowed to be good at. Mm-hmm. And that held me back for a good 15 years. But even today, now, I'm writing blogs and they're getting a little bit more exposure. And one of my software developers today, I had a Twitter handle that I really respect reach out to me and say that some of my writing really resonated and he thanked me for contributing my voice. And I was just wow, not all of the comments are bad because I tend to focus on the negative comments in my blogs. And there have been some where they're like, you're a girl, you can't code. They are blatant sexism.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that I let bother me. And so I love that, like, I've created this culture where all of my developers hold me accountable and they tell me, Andrea, you're playing small. How many of those are actually negative comments and how many are telling you that you need to keep speaking? So, I think it's something that you never really, like, yes, things are going great and I love the work that I do and I think it's really important and I'm having a lot of fun and I feel like I've built a great business and financially we're comfortable. Like things, yes, they are great. And that feeling of inadequacy and insecurity and fear of entering and doing something scary, Brene Brown calls it entering the arena. Like that fear never goes away and you just learn to kind of be a little bit more comfortable with it. But that pang of anxiety of like, oh, what do people think of me is always going to be there, or at least for me.
Mm-hmm. I just got the shivers when you talked about entering the arena, right? Whenever you're about to do something big and life-changing, like something like I call it like those things you must do. Right? You're just called to it. You must do it. But it means exposing yourself to the world to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened in New York. I was speaking at the CTO summit and I had been invited and I was telling my business partner, I was like, I don't belong here. Like everyone here is like super technical. I'm talking about empathy. Like what the heck? Like I don't belong here. And it turned out that wasn't the case at all. I mean, I was invited to this conference, like I was put on the schedule for a reason. And I started thinking and that I'm just going to be myself. And the more positive feedback I get about how that is resonating, the better it is. But it takes a lot. And I mean, for me, I think I'm kind of like halfway between an introvert and an extrovert. So like I'll go out and I'll do these big events and then like I just want to crawl home to my like small little town and just hang out and watch documentaries for 2 days.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love what you also said in your story, Andrea, about how, a bully told you weren't good at math and your grades went to C's and you did come back, right? Because then you went on to take all these advanced math classes and getting A's. But I love how you talked about, it impacted you culturally and psychologically, because I think we can all relate to those things where we do well at them, but we convince ourselves we're not good at it. Even though you were getting A's, you were telling yourself you're not good at math. And it's so interesting how that happens, because I'm sure everyone can relate to those areas in their lives where when people give them compliments, they go, oh, no, I have to work really hard. Oh, it's by accident. Oh, it's this, that, and the other thing. And we really need to stop doing that.
Yeah. I say thank you. Or at least try to, when somebody gives me a compliment, I just say thank you. Mm-hmm. That means a lot. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad that made an impact on you. And just learning to do that is kind of a framework. But yeah, there's a great book that I read early in my career. It's called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And it just like I remember reading it and it was all of these things that like culturally women weren't allowed to do. And it was like, don't focus on being a nice girl, focus on being a savvy girl. And, savvy girls will brag. They'll say, these are my accomplishments. Savvy girls aren't going to apologize for everything. So, savvy girls aren't going to minimize their accomplishments. So reading that early in my career, I think had a big impact on me. And I still go back to a lot of those things because, the culture is a really big deal. And when we don't have role models, or if we don't have people that we can look to as, people who have been there that we can aspire to be, it makes it really, really, really hard. So just knowing how to navigate that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And now, Andrea, if you could share with us a time in your journey when you had a wake-up call or an aha moment. Take us back to that moment and share with us the steps you took that led to your success.
Yeah. So in software, there is this culture of, are you technical or non-technical? And that's just kind of the culture. It's one of the first questions that people ask you all the time. And people would see me at conferences and they would go, hey, are you technical or non-technical? And it always made me question whether or not I was saying things right or things like that. And so one day I was in the car with my business partner, and he was now my husband, and we had our baby in the back seat, and he was sleeping. And then Scott had just been on a really big podcast, and he described me as non-technical. And the origin story that he shared about our business was that I was the non-technical person, and that I did the business administration and the marketing and, brought a lot of value to the business, but I didn't really code. And I remember hearing that, like when I heard it from his mouth, I got really angry. Like, I mean, it was more hurt than angry. I was like, how could you do this? Like, I have to battle everyone out there who asks me if I can code. How dare you say that? And Scott, luckily, is like super calm and he listens so well. And so he just like let me rant. And he just at the end goes, Andrea, all I did was say verbatim what you said at a client meeting yesterday. And that made me realize that I was the person who was holding myself back. And he told me, he said, when you start calling yourself technical, I'll start calling you technical. And he put the onus back on me. And that, I think, I love him for that, right? Mm-hmm. Like he really, really helped me grow. And he did it in this way that was just so heartfelt and so meaningful. And so I started really taking a critical look about why can't I call myself technical? And it started with all of these things about culture and like, well, what is technical, right? And eventually I got to the point where we were at a client meeting, and I shared all of these things about cyclomatic complexity and, churn and all these different things that I know about. And I shared it in this confident way. And this person who had been in the federal, or not in the federal, in the state government for a really long time, just looks at me. He goes, it looked like he was like looking at a zoo creature that he like couldn't place. Like he was just the entire meeting. He was like, how is this? Like, I understand the words and you are saying all the right things, but you're like, I've gotten that like too pretty to code. Like you don't look like a software engineer. Like, mm-hmm. And this was before the I look like an engineer movement, which I loved. But so he goes, yeah, I don't know. You don't look like someone who codes. And we went down and like, I just got so frustrated because I was like, I'm never going to look like someone who codes because I look like me, mm-hmm. And I'm not going to change who I am because you can't recognize that I have developed a skill. And so that's when I got the tattoo on my wrist, and it's a JavaScript function, and it says B, and then it has two parentheses. So that's an empty parameter. And in JavaScript, when you call that, it means that, it's undefined. So it basically means that I can be whatever the hell I want. And so I got it really more for me so that when I had feelings of self-doubt, I could look down, and I look at it probably 20 times a day still, because I'm like, I am technical. Like I know this stuff, and I'm always learning, right? And I'm always trying to get better. And and that has given me the confidence to then go out and share more. And it's had the benefit because now when I shake someone's hand, they see that I have a tattoo of a code snippet on my wrist. And so they don't ask whether or not I am technical or non-technical, because it's assumed that if this person has gone to the lengths of getting herself inked up with a JavaScript function, chances are she knows how to code. And so for me, what I've noticed is that I got this tattoo maybe a year and a half ago. And a year and a half of not being asked straight out the gate whether or not I know how to code has made a huge impact on my ability to just feel confident. So just recognizing too that there are cultural barriers out there, and that you can overcome them, but you've got to find your own way. Like for me, this was like just a deeply personal thing that works for me. It's not that I'm saying everybody has to go out and get a tattoo, but find something that you can constantly remind yourself that you are not the result of everybody's stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. I love that the tattoo served two purposes. One, to anchor you to your purpose, yep, and to what you're trying to bring to the world. And also it made you look like a coder. Right?
Yeah. Well, and it's not just look like a coder, like I am a coder, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember saying, so shortly after I got this, I was like, I'm just going to add this to my bio and just see if people want to talk about it. And so then it's really opened up the conversation. And I've been on lots of podcasts, especially with men, and they're like, I never thought of it that way. I do ask women if they know how to code. I am a jerk. I'm never going to do that again. Right. And so it's a lot of times, like, people don't even recognize that they're falling into these cultural, norms because they've just been conditioned. And so it does take a lot of kind of creativity and tenacity to just say, I'm going to try something different, and this is what I believe, and this is what I think. And so now I feel very confident calling myself technical. Am I the most technical person out there? It depends on what you're talking about, right? I feel very comfortable with certain technologies. I feel really, really comfortable with business acumen. Like, I'm super technical there. So yeah, I think it really just depends, and finding the confidence within yourself is the most important part. And it's a challenge. So,
well, Andrea, this is a great segue here, because what I'm very curious about now is, how would you describe your leadership style? Like, you've talked about like how you show up as an individual and as a woman, interacting with your peers, primarily, and your customers. But how would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, I think mine is through encouragement and also really understanding vulnerability. I've been really inspired by the work of Dr. Brené Brown, and just how vulnerability can be such a tool for leadership and demonstrating courage. And so I have really tried to be a leader who shows up every day and is seen and shares that there are things that I feel like I'm an imposter over, and I don't try, so Brené Brown has this mantra that she's shared in her book, Daring Greatly, of don't puff up, don't shrink, stand your sacred ground. And that is very much how I feel. And I try to encourage other people to do the same thing. And it's not just women, it's everyone on my team. So for example, when my business development person was putting together a grant proposal, right, he had put a lot of language in there of like, well, I've only been here for a few months, but this is what I think. And I'm like, no, delete that. Like, you don't need to say that. Just have an opinion. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
And really just encouraging people to recognize that when you feel like you're being an imposter, and when you feel that sense of imposter syndrome, that means that you are an incredibly self-motivated and self-aware person, because we think that imposter syndrome is a feminine issue or a woman's issue, and it's not. It's a high achievers issue. And it is, and so men get this just as much as women. And so everyone on my team, I kind of encourage them to go outside of their comfort zone. And so with people who come to the team with more consultative skills, I'm encouraging them to be technical kind of, and that's where I feel. But then the people who come to my team who have lots of technical skills, I'm encouraging them to really do their consultative skills. And I'm like, okay, I want to see you pitching at conferences. I want to see you writing on the blog. I want to see you sharing your experiences and communicating. And when we all are doing those different types of activities, then we're all creating an environment where we're helping each other be our best selves. And we're no longer saying, well, the content person is just over there and she's going to be writing all the blogs and I'm not going to help her. And then, the content person isn't saying, well, I don't code, so I'm not going to, it's like we're all in there. We're all trying to do our best, and we're all learning and growing from each other. So, yeah. So I think of myself a lot of times just as like a gardener. Like my job is to really kind of set the scene, set the environment, make sure that all the seeds are planted and everything has what it needs to grow. And that I'm just really monitoring the health of the system and kind of everything overall. And just only injecting myself where I really need to, because I think as a leader, sometimes like I can, you can mess things up by not just hanging back, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. You can get in the way.
Yeah. I was talking about this with my director of operations, and she shared the story of how she played Frog in the Frog and Toad in in second grade. And so the story is like Frog and Toad are planting a garden, and I forget whether it's Frog or Toad, but one of them goes, "Grow seeds, grow," and like is standing over them yelling. And I feel like that's what some CEOs do. Like, you really just at that point need to go and like just let people do their thing and trust that it's going to happen, that you've done your job and you've set things up. And now it's about just monitoring things and making sure that things are good and harvesting when needed to. But, you know, your job is not necessarily to do the work. It's really to empower other people to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And we chatted briefly about this before we hit record, of how you are starting to hand over some tasks to some of your team members and let go of other tasks. So this is a great segue, because what I want to hear about now that you're giving over some of these day-to-day things, what are you working on right now that you're really excited about and want to share with us?
Yeah, you know, the number one thing on my bucket list is to write a book and get it published. And I feel like now, I'm going to have the space in the next year to really dedicate to getting some of my ideas into a longer format and discussing, you know, like, and so I've got like 4 or 5 books in my head that I want to write. And so I'm really excited about being able to just dedicate some time to really putting all of these ideas together into a longer format. And I feel ready for that. And then also just curating a community that LegacyCode.Rocks. So one of the things I noticed when I started this work was that there was a community of people who were very passionate about software maintenance and modernization, but they had no way to talk to each other. So, you know, we've got a Slack group and we do masterminds and I host a podcast. Like again, it's really trying to be a servant so that everybody can take the shame out of the stigma that's been created around software maintenance, and that they can have other people to talk to who are working on similar projects, and that we can just be a network and a supportive group for each other. And so that's been an awesome project to work on as well.
You know, and I remember in one of his books, let me say this clearly, Malcolm Gladwell talked about like coffee talk or shop talk that people have, that it sounds very superficial at first when people are, you know, doing shop talk. But what they're actually doing is people are sharing knowledge of different situations. And so just by having those types of conversations, you're actually expanding your experience level. And so they're very important to have.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the things that keeps me grounded. And that's a big place where I get different ideas, is by interacting with everyone. So then even if I'm not able to get in and dive in on a project as much as I'd like with a client, you know, I'm learning about what everybody else is doing, and I'm able to see trends, and I'm able to spot patterns, and I'm able to try different ideas that I hear. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I love that. And on the flip side of things, Andrea, what would you say is your biggest leadership or business challenge that you're faced with right now?
We've been in business 8 years, and for about 6.5 of those years, it was just me and Scott. We were super scrappy. We made no money, right? Like we took out loans, we kept things going, and like, things have moved really fast in the past 18 months, to the point now where we're growing a team. We've got a team of 12 based on our current demand. We'll probably be a team of 30 by this time next year. And so we're growing really fast. And so one of the things for me is making sure that I can delegate, and that I'm not tempted to do all of the work, and that I'm trying to figure out how to maintain the vision that I have of, you know, just really high consultative, good business development. Like, how do I train and get my vision across if I'm not as hands-on? That's I think one of the biggest challenges. And I'm trying new things, but that's something that they don't teach you, is this kind of transition that once you've made it becomes a whole different kind of set of challenges. So embracing it and realizing that it's something new and this is exciting, but at the same time, you know, there's a feeling of like, well, what if it, you know, doesn't work, or what if I can't be there, or what if I mess up? And I think a lot of us, especially as women, I've encountered lots of women who just have this fear of making a mistake. I know that's me, but the interesting thing about software is that that's how, and business is that that's how you do it, is you try things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then you make adjustments accordingly. So yeah, I think just learning to trust the process and trust my own instincts and just recognize that, you know, the things that I have to say matter, and that I will find people. Like, I remember when I first started and I gave a business pitch and I was like, I want to find software developers who code in 15 languages and they can be their own project managers, and they're also really amazing consultants and they have really good communications. Like, and people laughed at me. I mean, they absolutely laughed at me, and they're like, your expectations are way too high. You're never going to be able to find anyone like that. And I was pleasantly surprised, because my intuition was right. And there were people who were being way under challenged at different places, and they left jobs and sometimes took pay cuts to come work for me. And so, you know, I think just recognizing that even though I don't know what's around the bend, that I can trust my own instincts. And I think that's something that just comes with time. You know, that I have more data points now, and I recognize that I've been an entrepreneur for long enough now where it's like, okay, you know, I'm not going to always know what I'm doing, but, you know, I've got a fair amount of data that shows that I'm usually, you know, kind of on point. And so just trusting the data, trusting the, you know, the objectiveness rather than the feeling of I can't do this and I don't know what I'm doing. You know, if I look back, I'm like, yeah, I messed up, but I learned from those mistakes and I changed my behavior, and, you know, now I do things differently, and now I know. And so, you know, the longer you're in business, the easier I think sometimes it is to stay in business. So,
you know, and as we're talking about all of this, Andrea, what keeps coming to my mind is, and this is all stuff you can put in your book and then hand it to the people you hire and be like, digest this. This is your Bible. This is our philosophy. This is where we're going. This is how I want you to operate.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it is, and I think, you know, we don't teach leaders how to articulate their vision. And that was really where I came from before I did Corky Bites full time. Was I really worked with CEOs to help them articulate and that is a very difficult job. It's a very, very difficult job. And, you know, putting myself in the shoes of having to do that and having a vision and explaining it, it's a lot of work. And it's something that you're constantly reinventing, because what worked last year, you know, markets are different. You know, the staff that I have is different. You know, what worked last year might not work this year. So you're constantly having to be the champion and the cheerleader and the vision setter, and setting the course for your business, and recognizing that that is real work. Because sometimes I think we don't, like, I know for me, one of the biggest challenges early on when I was transitioning to a CEO role from more of a production role was I had this feeling that no longer was I judged by the output of my work, but rather the impact of my decisions. And so my job was not to do the work, but it was to make the right decision at the right time. And sometimes that means that you're just kind of hanging back, you're absorbing information, you're doing a lot of listening, so that you can make the right decision at the right time. But that is a big shift from being the producer and saying at the end of an 8-hour day, oh, I did this, and this. And there, especially when I first started managing a team, I would walk away. I'm like, what the heck did I do today? I felt so unproductive. And instead going, okay, I made really good decisions today. You know, I made decisions that are going to impact the business for years to come. And me being rested and me being, knowledgeable and well-researched, like that is work. That is the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a tough transition. And you've been, touching upon the people you have around you, and we're coming into a quick home stretch here. So if you could quickly just give us an outline of the people who support you in your life to help you do what you do.
Oh my gosh, this is a long list. So I'll be quick. So there are so many. But I mean, first of all is Scott. I mean, So in addition to being my business partner, is my life partner. And just, you heard earlier just about how he challenges me in these amazing ways. And he constantly does that. So Scott's great. We also live with Scott's parents. They help a lot with childcare so that Scott and I can both be fully dedicated to the business, and we can travel a lot. My parents help a lot as well. On our team, Nikki is our director of operations. Don has been with us since really day one. He kind of was one of the first people who came on board and helped transform our culture. Catalina, she is constantly telling, being that imposter syndrome, like cheerleader, like, Andrea, you've got this. We all believe in you. We've got Joe. I've got Erin, who helps out as my administrative assistant, and she just is willing to help with the kids. So, there are so many people that, and I think the thing I like most about everyone on my team, whether it's a personal or professional support player, is that everyone is just willing to do what it takes to get the job done. So I've got family who would help in the business if I needed it. I've got people in the business who, are helping with some family stuff if we need it. And it's just about doing the work and supporting each other. And recognizing that, your personal life is a big part of who you are, and not just as a CEO, that's for everyone, right? So everyone should have the opportunity to take time off if they need to, if, they're not feeling good or things like that. Like, it seems so little, but yet how often do we truly support the people on our team? So I try to support my team just as much, and I am constantly inspired by all of them.
Nice. And now, Andrea, I'm going to do a quick leadership roundup. So tell us in one sentence, what is one practice you have that helps to make you a better leader?
I have everyone on my team write out a daily journal. And we've been doing this for about a year now, and it's awesome. So at the end of the day, everyone just writes in a wiki. They type up a couple of paragraphs about what happened in their day, and we all read each other's journals. And that has been a completely transformative practice because it's helped me really see what's going on and trends that otherwise I probably wouldn't have.
What is one book that you would recommend to a woman to help her develop her leadership?
Yeah, I think I mentioned two today. So definitely Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. And just that, when I read that book, it was like freaking light bulb just went off. And I was like, this is why I've never felt right in software, because I can't be vulnerable. It's shame ridden, like vulnerability is seen as a weakness, not a strength. So understanding the research around shame, empathy, and vulnerability, and kind of demystifying and debunking some of the myths was huge for me, huge. And then the other one is that Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And I will have to look and see who that's by. It's over on my bookshelf. I can see it, but Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. It's that one, like I said, it's quick to read. It's good just to kind of have close by and flip through. So those two for sure have helped me.
And what advice would you give your younger self?
I think just recognizing that no matter what you do, like, you're gonna take away some piece of some lesson that's going to serve you later. So I talked about how one of my first jobs was at the hostess stand. And one of the things I learned there was how to do capacity management, right? Like how to set expectations, how to do estimating. And those are all things that I use very much in my consulting practice today. And I believe that they were really honed and developed when I was in a very humble job of, telling people how long it was going to be for their table. So, recognizing that there are skills that will transcend and that you'll take with you, and just kind of, I remember when I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to be and navigating kind of the early phases of my career, there's a lot of work I didn't want to do. And just every day I would wake up and I'm like, I'm earning my stripes. and that really helped, so a lot of times it's like, if you don't want to do something, or if even when I'm learning how to code, I'm like, okay, I'm earning my stripes. I'm learning. I'm going to get through this, right? Just keep going.
Absolutely. And Andrea, share with us a success quote or a mantra and why it has meaning for you.
So I'm a big fan of the Eleanor Roosevelt quote that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. And that is one that I am always trying to recognize. I heard that early in my career and it never really kind of sunk in. But now recognizing that, if I have someone, like, I'll put some of my writing out there and, I'll get 200 comments on it and 199 of them will be like, this was so amazing. Thank you so much for writing this. This really made a big difference in my life. And one will be like, you're not technical. Stop calling people. Like, one is a troll, right? That is just mean. And I will focus on that one person. And I've noticed that takes power away from me. And so I go back to Eleanor Roosevelt's quote of like, I'm giving that person my power. And I can't, like, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So, like, I am consenting that I will give away my power to him, or that I'm assuming it's a him. But yeah, so just recognizing that, a lot of times when you feel inferior, it's because you've given your power away, not because someone has made you feel in a certain way.
Yeah. And lastly, Andrea, what is the best way for this community to connect with you?
I would say probably Twitter. I tweet a lot about the issues that we've talked about today, and I love like diving into research about women in technology. So that's something that I like. And so I'm Andrea Goulet on Twitter, just my name. And then there's also our website. So corgibites.com. So CORGI, like the dog. I don't know if it came through, but my dog is yapping a little bit outside. So if that came through on the podcast, I apologize. But yeah, so corgibites.com. And then, if you are a mender and like you find that you really like making software better, there's LegacyCode.Rocks, and it's a community of people who really enjoy doing this work, and we share ideas and help try to make the world's code a little bit better every day.
Awesome. And for those of you listening, I know you're oftentimes on the go. You can find all these links and the resources that Andrea shared in this episode in the blog post that accompanies it at womentakingthelead.com. If you put Andrea in the search tab, it'll pop right up. And Andrea, thank you so much for taking the time to inspire and enlighten us. We are all better for having met you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the invitation. This was so much fun.
Your website tells a story about your business. At Zebra Love Web Solutions, Millie and her team are going to make sure your website tells the story you want your customers to hear. Connect with Millie at zebralovewebsolutions.com to create the impression you want to make. Thank you for joining me on Women Taking the Lead. Are you ready to take the lead in your own life but need some support? Head over to womentakingthelead.com/contact to introduce yourself. And to strengthen you on your leadership journey, I'd like to send you off with a quote from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Again, thank you for joining with me, and here's to your success.